right, guys, on this new series, we are going to be talking about exactly what you see here, questions entrepreneurs ask after starting a business. So in the first two series, we were talking about questions entrepreneurs ask before starting a business and when they start a business. Now we're talking about after you start the business. What do you need? What do you got going on? And what questions are going to come up? These are the most commonly asked questions in this space at this time. So you've already started a business, you're ready to rock and roll. You got some questions, right? Now, first one probably is going to be, how do I build consistent sales after launching? Because without sales, your business is going to implode and you don't have a business. And so ultimately, you have some easy sales that are going to come early on. These are going to be like from friends and family, network, people like that, people that you know that they want to help you, right? Maybe they don't need the product, but they want to support you, so they're going to buy your product. Maybe you've gone to a test market already, and ultimately your product has shown some success in that smaller test market. Regardless, you need to build a system. You need to have predictable sales that are going to be consistent and they're going to come in through the pipeline. And in order to do that, you got to set up systems for that. Marketing systems, sales systems, CRM systems, all of that. If you haven't done that yet, like we've talked about in earlier videos, this is probably the time to really start thinking about that and getting the wheels in motion. We have guides and other descriptions and details available below, or if this is on the site, chriskraze.com, KRISKRAZE.com, we have different guides and different assistance there as well. So with this video, we're going to be talking about covering practical steps to systematize and professionalize the sales after you launch, right? So what's going to happen here? Early sales, like we said, they're going to come from your personal network, probably a smaller segment of an audience, right? Once you get that proof down, you get the minimum viable product, that first couple of sales coming in, guess what? Doors are open. You know that what you have is of value to somebody, unless it's just your friend group and they're only supporting you because they're your friends. You can't count those. You got to be truthful with the data here and with your feedback, because if not, you're only going to screw yourself in the future. So you need to have real business growth, and this needs to consistently come in from strangers all the time. Why? Because strangers are not your friends. Your friends aren't going to be around the globe. Maybe they are, but they're not going to be able to support your business over and over and over. The new sales that are coming in, you're not going to be able to consistently get that with just your friends in your network. In order to build a massive company, or to build a company that's doing any good amount of revenue, you're going to have sales that are ultimately coming from people that you don't know, right? So you need to get your ICP. What is that? No, it's not the group, not the Insane Clown Posse group. We're not talking about that. Your ideal customer profile. In the marketing world, we call that an avatar. What is your avatar? Demographics, psychographics, sociographics. Who are these people? Who is the person that you are going to be selling to? Maybe you have different demographics for different products. Your overall brand has a demographic and has a type of avatar they go to, but individually, each product has a subset of that. I mean, this can get very granular. Don't waste too much time up front thinking about it, talking about it, because you may not know who your demographic is yet. You may not know who your right avatar is. It's ironic because we're in a couple of trainings right now on YouTube videos. And the funny thing is, the same thing applies with YouTube videos as I believe applies here in real life. And that is, you think that you know your customer because you have the intent as the business to solve a problem. Maybe this is a problem that you had yourself. That's why you built the business. But you are not the entire customer base. You're just one person out of an entire system and sea of people who have their own thoughts, their own needs, their own wants, their own desires. And ultimately, these are people who are going to define your market and their needs and wants and desires. And for each product, for your business, for your brand, the whole 9 yards. As the brand grows, your market size should grow as well, because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into something where you have to close a business down in a few years because you don't have enough people coming into your business because of market saturation. Whole nother topic, whole different set of videos. So what do you need to do here in order, with respect to this video, to get going and to do, what do you need to do after your sales, after you launch, after you get your first couple of sales? Well, you need to build a consistent lead generation system. Outbound, inbound, marketing, ads, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, the CRM, what are the systems? If you can conceptualize your business, like I talked about on the last series, as a marketing arm, as a marketing system that just so happens to sell a product, right? You're going to be better off than most. Learn about the marketing, get detailed on the marketing, and then sell your product on the side. Bring people into the story, share stuff. Be careful that you don't share too much. However, You want to bring people in, you want to get people engulfed in the story and along for the ride, create this movement. But ultimately, you need to think in systems. The faster that you can build systems, the faster things are repeatable, scalable, and automated. Because that will allow you to grow your business. The faster you can get a VA in to help you with the redundant things like managing emails, like doing calls, like booking appointments, a call taker, things like this. These will tremendously help your business early on. And furthermore, organic marketing. And I say this because organic content, once it's there, it's literally digital real estate. We've all heard about millionaires, so many millionaires and billionaires being in real estate. Well, the same applies in the business world. If you go online and you search any keyword for law firms, for architects, for anything like this, the websites that are going to come up organically are going to be those that have focused on organic content. Yes, of course, the ads are there, but I'm talking about in the search results. You'll land on a lawyer's page and his practice is going to be located in like Montana or Maine or something like that. Well, guess what? He has the most SEO and he's done great at the content marketing. You landed on his site and you were searching for something in California. That's how it works. The more eyes, the more relevant eyes, and the more of a consultant and expert that you can be at something, and you get this organic content out there, the better off you will be early on. Because then, once the organic content's there, you just have to update it every few months so that it stays relevant with SERPs. And that's the search results, that's the bots that are online scanning this. I just had a couple of my staff go through a series of my websites and update all the content. We, about a half, 75% increase, I should say, from what we were doing already, which is almost double, in just updating the content. I have to think about the numbers there, but just right about that, depending on what site it is and everything else. However, just updating content, it's more relevant, it's gonna rank higher. We're having content was on page 2, on page 1, content at position number 10, 9 or 10, up to position 2 or 3. So these are things that you want to look at. It's digital real estate. Once it's there, it's there. You're not stuck in running ads where you have to run ads and you have to keep getting people to come in. I know I'm going off on the marketing tangent, but I'm beating a dead horse with this because the faster that you can understand this, the better you'll be. And I'm talking from experience, taking 6, 7 companies to over $1 million in revenue, and these brands are still there. They weren't a fly-by-night company that ended up shutting down. The brands are still active, they're still online, and many of them work with Fortune 50, more or less Fortune 500 companies. So that should tell you enough what it says there. Let's see here, building consistent lead generation systems, we talked about that. Now, create and refine a repeatable sales process. If you can get your sales process down, it's simple. Outreach, lead, nurture, close, follow-up. 5 steps, right? A lot of these info products online, these guys are doing the most simplest thing. And all that is creating a digital product, and then you run a bunch of ads, they come into a lead generation mechanism such as a funnel, a CRM, and then you have somebody call them back, do an outreach, and then you get them on the phone and you close them. If you want the core concept of how this works, it's human behavior. It's not gonna be the next marketing bell or whistle. It's not gonna be the next program, the next sales script that you can read off of and be a robot on the phone. I'm telling you that in order to get your business sky high, behavior profiling and ultimately human behavior, because we are all the same at the core, regardless of what culture you're from. Cultural differences are taken into account as well, but when you understand how a person operates, the sale's much easier. You connect with them. You're able to do certain things with them that normally people would not be able to do, such as connect and be open and completely let go with them. You know what I'm saying? And so they're gonna be doing the same with you on the phone. Now, by the way, I just dropped some embedded commands there. If you're wondering what that is, that's a whole different training, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. So those are things that you will be able to do with your sales team, with your staff, with the people that you work with, that ultimately and tremendously help your business. So these are things, look at human behavior, get this down, right? And then the system's simple from there. It's a numbers game. It becomes a big vending machine. You put X amount of dollars in on Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, whatever it may be, and then you get X amount of dollars coming out. A return on ad spend is what they call it. So you could put $1 in and you get $4 coming out, which means once they go through your sales process, once they buy your course, your product, your whatever it is you have to offer, now you're making money, and it literally becomes one big vending machine. How much money can you put in to get how much money you have coming back out? Obviously scale your team from there. And we have different workshops on scaling. Link will be in the description below. However, this is important, right? So create and refine your sales process. It's a repeatable process. Again, outreach, leads, nurture, close, and follow up. The follow up in the email sequence, I'll give you a bonus tip here. Even if it's 10 emails, don't poach them in the first 9. Don't sell them something in the first 9. Position yourself as an expert, give them value, talk about the problems and the questions that they would have. We have a whole other program just on this, how to take 100 videos that are 2 to 3 minutes long that you can record in probably 2 or 3 days and syndicate this content to a massive system. Emails, websites, videos, all of it. If you want information on that, that link will be below as well, but I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to provide value and ultimately tell you in the 10 emails on the boarding sequence, you let them know, this is what we do, this is how we operate, this is the problems we solve, here's a question that we're gonna answer, here's a problem we're gonna answer, here's a problem we're gonna answer, so on and so forth. 9th or 10th email, hey, let's jump on a phone, here's our scheduler. So get them on a phone call and then you get them in your system. They've already had that value. I've done this with DJs, I've done this with other companies, and this is how you put yourself above the rest instead of price war all the way to the bottom. Now, importance of tracking key metrics, this will be the last point in this video, is ultimately gonna be, you need to track everything, right? The leads generated, the conversion rates, customer acquisition costs, cost to acquire a customer, and the lifetime value of a customer, right? You wanna build trust and credibility in every interaction, right? And you need to position yourself as a storytelling expert. And why the storytelling matters, I talked about this early on in this video, as I did with many other videos. Bring people along for the ride. Just like I'm bringing you along for the ride in this video here, I'm talking to you as if you're a person right in front of me. You got to do the same thing to your audience. If they're along for the ride with you, they are going to have a good time. They're going to understand your pain points, your triumphs. They're going to understand your goals, your objectives, where you're going with the company, what your real vision is, things like that. Get this in front of them, right? A hook, a good story, and then of course you're making them a good offer. Now you need to understand the sales velocity as well, right? Because ultimately, how fast can prospects move through your pipeline? The faster they can move through it, the less problems they have and the less roadblocks, the better your business is. And I'll tell you what, so many companies I've consulted with and so many masterminds I've been in, the number one problem of businesses is they don't have this in line. You can call a business, I can task you this right now, go online, call 20 tire shops in your community, call 20 dentists in the community, call 20 of any business in the community, and just take a note on how many of those pick up at all versus let alone how many pick up in the first 2 rings. That'll tell you all you need to know right there. It's as simple as this. You pick up faster than your competitor, you give more information than your competitor, and you seem like more of an expert than a competitor. Obviously, you got to put your money where your mouth is and walk the walk, not just talk it. But if you do these 3 things, you'll be better off than your competition. And this is why the US is so good at certain things, as well as other countries. But these are people that can get things done and they do it faster and they go, look, I'm gonna do it faster, better, and smarter than my competition over here. And then the market will decide who's a better fit. Simply, you just pick your phone up. If you pick your phone up every single call and they pick up their phone up every other call, well, you have a 50% chance better that you're 50% chance that you're going to be doing better in business and making more just by occurrences, right? Very dumb numbers, but this is how it works. Try it, and I would be curious to see what your feedback is. Actually, leave some feedback in the comments below after you do that experiment. Now, we're going to talk about how automation, email sequences, retargeting, CRMs, we did talk about that, but they multiply efforts because ultimately what they're doing is it's a system. And as long as that system's managed and you get SOPs in line for this, then ultimately you'll be good to go. And if you have to do something more than 4 times, hire somebody else to do it. Take a video of you doing it. There's programs like Loom. There's other take your iPhone. I can't tell you how many times in some of my warehouses I do actual videos that I catalog somewhere and I put the video, a number, like, alphanumeric, A12, A19, C, whatever. So the letters mean something, they're a different segment or a different type of product, and then the numbers are just the video in that series. That way my staff can go in, I can communicate it to them, and they have their SOPs that they can look at and they can understand that, so they go there first before bogging me down with my time. If you start this from the beginning, it'll be so much easier to rock and roll moving forward. And then continually improve based on the data. You need to improve. So if you're not tracking metrics, how do you improve? You can't. You can't do this just off of emotions, right? You're gonna have emotions, but just like stocks, just like money, just like everything else that we've been told to have emotion about, you can't. You have to leave emotion out of it because this is business. And one of the takeaways from this is gonna be, business is easy, people are difficult. People is why the emotion comes in, and that's where ultimately we want to be connected to people. We want to understand people. We want to have people focused on what we're saying and what I'm saying. These are things that are great, but there's emotion that's tied to that, right? This is business. Business is a math equation. You have value, you're providing value to somebody else, and they're giving you money in exchange for that value because they appreciate that, and that's just the normalcy of it. Doesn't need to be more complicated than that. So the key takeaway is consistent sales are going to come from consistent systems, not just the hustle. So focus on the systems up front and you'll be much better off. I can guarantee you that. Now, part 2 that's coming up to this series is going to be, when should I start hiring employees or contractors? You won't want to miss it. See you on the next one.